Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session today. We are going to be hearing from two great esteemed colleagues of mine over here. They have traveled near and far to be here. We have Greg came from Boulder, Colorado today, and Connor came from Atlanta, Georgia. So very cool to have both of them here with us today. First, we're going to hear from Greg. He's going to talk about wellness and sustainability technologies for leveling up your green building. And then we're going to hear from Connor about leveraging emerging digital twin technologies as a facility operator. So lots of important information today, and we're looking forward to it. So without further ado, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I think we have mics. So like she said, I'm Greg Patton with SIG, Sustainable Investment Group. A lot of letters after my name. The only thing I don't have, which is interesting, is any IFMA letters, because I spent 15 years before I pivoted my career into sustainability as a chief engineer in South Florida. So unfortunately, I don't have any of those. But I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Welcome to the first annual Connor and Greg fan club.
Woo!
So thank you. But yeah. Connor, you want to introduce yourself?
So excited to be here today. I'm Connor Offutt, the CEO of Aetos Imaging, where we're trying to figure out how to make facilities management more efficient using 3D scanning and digital twin technology. So excited to share some cool things with you guys today.
Yeah. Let's dive into it, right? So I'm going to talk about technologies and strategies that me as a practitioner doing green building certifications, sustainability work throughout the commercial world, what I'm seeing in projects that are working and some that are not working. So what are green buildings and why are they prioritizing wellness? Green buildings prioritize wellness are becoming increasingly popular. We know that as humans, pre-pandemic and now getting back post-pandemic, we spend 90% of our time indoors, so it's very important to have a healthy environment inside your building. So one of the technologies that I'm seeing as I'm visiting projects doing sustainability work, smart lighting. And this technology can be programmed automatically to adjust the natural light, reducing your energy consumption. They can also adjust the color temperature, which is good for your circadian rhythm. Two of the technologies that I've seen out there in the field, Lutron and RAB, RAB. These are very good ones because they also are smart technologies. So they have the ability to learn what the occupants in the building are doing and program themselves and adjust over time. Another technology, air quality sensors. We all know what these are. They can measure temperature, humidity, comfort, TVOC, CO2, radon, and then the pressures within the building. One that I work with a lot of big portfolio clients throughout the country, and the one that I'm seeing a lot of is WellStat by IES Mach. These have the ability to give facility operators real-time data, real-time actionable data, to measure and monitor the air quality inside of spaces. And they have a real neat dashboard where you can log in and see how your building is operating with a bunch of different parameters. Anything that's in orange needs to be addressed, and everything blue, different shades of blue, the building's running well. Biophilic design, this one's kind of has its good and its bad. Biophilic design incorporates natural elements such as plants, water, and natural light into the built environment, and this promotes a sense of calm and well-being. A lot of facility managers, I know you probably do not like this because of the drawbacks that it has for attracting pests and other things, but there are alternatives to that. If you have a green wall or you have other windows that you can open up or you can see out to actually see the biophilic design outside, something that's going to provide a connection to nature. Active design also. Active design incorporates physical activity into the built environment, into your building. Promotes wellness through movement, and different strategies for that are staircases, walking paths, or bike storages. Low emitting materials, very important for the healthy building environment, and these are low emitting materials such as low VOC paints, adhesives, and they all improve air quality and reduce the risk of respiratory problems. On the bottom there, if you're doing a build out, different types of certifications or stamps that you should look for that have been tested to be proven to be low emitting materials. And that's my 5 minutes.
Greg, you promised me 10 minutes at least.
I tried, but I always talk like I'm from New York, so.
All right.
I don't know if we're going to send this out, but there are some links to the different products that I featured there. I'm not a manufacturer's rep, so take it for what you want.
So Greg, thank you for giving us that overview of all the things that we can do within a building to make it healthier. I think, as a just quick rundown of all the different types of things, it always comes down to actually implementing these things.
Right.
Making sure it makes sense. Biophilic design versus pest control. These are all factors, right? Sure, it might be great on one side, but then what is it like in reality, actionably? There's a lot of things that we have to consider there. So
Exactly.
I think what I want to come here and talk about today is a passion of mine, which has been, over the last 3 years, I've been absolutely obsessed with the whole topic of visualizing facility operations and how can we bring technology into the fold today and kind of catch commercial real estate facilities management up to the state of the art that's happening in some of these other industries. We don't want to be left behind, right? So a lot of cool things happening right now, ChatGPT, there's all sorts of AI conversations, but at the end of the day, we're facility operators, right? And so we're trying to figure out how do we run the most efficient strategies, how do we deploy the most efficient use of capital and keep our occupants healthy, keep our occupants safe, and also manage these buildings in an efficient way possible, because we all know things are really changing. We're being asked to do more with less. There's a lot of shifting environments within the ecosystem right now. So I've been obsessed with this problem. It's just been a lot of fun trying to tackle this, so I can't wait to dive into this today. So the first thing is just kind of framing what I perceive to be a little bit of a problem or a looming threat, or however you want to define it, which is expertise is retiring. 25% of the workforce right now is 60 plus years old, depending on what data source you're looking at. It's around there. So that's a little concerning. I mean, what I like to say is today's grads are graduating with computer science degrees and communications degrees, and there's not enough technical work to go around, right? I think we've all kind of seen this phenomena. So the other thing, and I do apologize for the younger generation, but 21% of the millennial generation don't even stick around after the first year of employment, which is really, really not what it was 20, 30 years ago. Longer careers, more tenured service. It's a lot more turnover happening, and people are trying to figure out, where do they belong. So these are the realities here, right? We can't just wish that things would magically change. This is what's happening. So I think what we need to think about as facility operators is how do we adjust to this? What do we do in order to make things more efficient and bring in this workforce to be able to maintain these buildings? Because these things still need to be maintained. The other thing is 45% of all employers in the space are saying they can't find skilled workers. And I do bold skilled because we can't just let anybody in, right? There's a deep knowledge base that people have to come to the building as, whether that's electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, management, all these different things. These are just not off-the-shelf skills. These are skills that require training. And so having nearly half of all employers saying there's not enough skilled labor to go around, I think is concerning. And there's a lot of research out there that's saying that this is really kind of a cascading problem that could culminate in something really interesting here in the next 10 years. And I know a lot of the circles that I'm in, this is a very heavy problem that people are really trying to talk about. So the bottom line here is today's operators are being asked to do more with less resources from a human management perspective. And it's something we all need to look at. So the other thing, obviously, the pandemic has accelerated this shift in transition to what I call hybrid work, or the new normal, right? Anybody here tired of Zoom calls? I mean, I am. It's a pretty big shift, and it's happened pretty suddenly, right? So companies are trying to figure out, how do we leverage the efficiency of virtual? Obviously, yeah, I can pack in 4 calls in a day, back-to-back meetings. That's great. Did I get more done? Maybe. But we still need to protect that vital human interaction. And as my great friend Ralph DiDomenico loves to tell me, it still takes a shovel to dig a hole, right? You still need people at these buildings maintaining equipment, managing processes, and no matter what, until the robot apocalypse happens, we're still away from that. It's still going to require a lot of human labor to come in there and manage these things. So I think we're all trying to figure out, how do we use the best of what the online kind of transformation has brought to us, remote work, online collaboration, all these things, but still not neglect that boots on the ground strategy. And so then kind of summarizing all this is the need to protect institutional knowledge. Now, I've had the privilege of working on probably over 100 buildings here in the last 4 or 5 years, and I have yet to encounter 2 buildings that are exactly the same. It really is, everything is built to spec. There you have standards, you have policies, you have all these different things that are consistent, but we all know kind of what happens. If a chief engineer retires, a lot of that knowledge goes with him, right? Or you got a great property manager and they had a system for how they're running everything, and then they leave, and all of a sudden tenants start complaining, right? So this is a really difficult problem to solve, which is why I've been really, really passionate about what can we do in the form of technology, and really in terms of my domain, which is imaging and 3D scanning technology, is there a way that this can start to crack at this problem? And I think the answer is yes, or at least it's part of the solution. And so let me just kind of get a general sense of the room here. Who here is a facility manager, operator, maintenance manager, or anything like that? Can I get a show of hands? Okay, who here is familiar with a CMMS, maintenance management system? Okay, well, this is really for you guys. So I think there's all sorts of different CMMS systems out there, right? Work orders, preventative maintenance, predictive maintenance, IoT integrations. This is kind of where the whole game is at. And I firmly believe that we are at the cusp of a new transition into a new category of maintenance management software that focuses, or at least leverages, the visual element. Seeing a checklist or seeing a data sheet, make, model, serial number of a piece of equipment does not give you the same information that actually a real image of it, right? You still need an inspection. You still really need to go in and see these dimensions things, right? So I really think a lot about what is the value that visual can provide. And I almost equate it to a transition that we might be in right now, where it's like going from radio to television, from 2D to 3D, and I think it's a really, really exciting time for facilities management that I really want to share with you guys today. And so I'm calling this transition, we're going from CMMS to VMMS, a visual maintenance management software, and being able to visualize our assets in a way that's never been done before. And hopefully everything works and I'm able to show you guys some live examples, because obviously it's visual, it's better to show rather than tell. So we'll be doing that. So we've been pioneering 3D scanning technology and how it could be used for the operators to unlock the institutional knowledge of the building and protect it over time. So some of these projects here that we've been working on, everything from One Vanderbilt, one of the newest commercial office buildings in Manhattan, to the Farley Building, a historical project, all the way to these different asset types. One of my favorite buildings, the Coda Building in Atlanta. We've been really trying to push the envelope of how can we leverage 3D scanning technology to unlock this institutional knowledge. And boy, have we been learning along the way. So it's never easy to try to do something completely new, but I do think that this whole space is about to be disrupted. And so, from my perspective, the company that I run, we're trying to do 3 things extremely well. And I think this is just applying general to the power of visual, which is, can we get visual asset data? Not just information, going from raw data to visual asset data. Site-specific training. Again, no 2 buildings are the same. So educating people, protecting that institutional knowledge on how to operate this particular building in the most efficient way. And then that remote work enablement piece where I was just talking about, where how can we slot a technology into this remote workflow as people are starting to work from home, overseas, connect over the continent. I think we're in for some really exciting times. So let me go and transition to a little live example, because I know you guys don't believe me. We're gonna talk about some of this stuff, and I'm hopefully gonna just show you some things in action. So my wonderful tech friend over here is gonna make sure that everything works. Let me just get this on. This is a great time, Greg, for your dad joke, by the way. Perfect. Okay. So what this is again, I've kind of framed us and set us up for the problem and what this might look like, but I really want to show you guys what's possible. And I think this is really exciting. So hopefully you guys can follow along with me. So here's a portfolio of buildings. And this is in no particular order. I'm just kind of letting you guys imagine the different types of assets that we can have on a dashboard. I mean, many people here manage multiple buildings, a whole portfolio, an entire operation. So one of the first things that we wanted to do is to help large portfolio companies manage assets across an entire portfolio. So here I can jump into my Coda building at the Tech Square, and we have several spaces imaged. So I can say, let me just jump into my chiller room. Now this is in Atlanta, but now you guys are in here in this chiller room from Portland, and we are having a good time looking at this engine room. So just being able to walk around here, I can see my piping, I can see what type of equipment I have installed. I think we're already starting to get an idea of the value that this can provide to operations, because now I can actually jump in here and see what I've got going on. You can see our labeling system here. We have everything identified, and this is pulled directly from the equipment schedule, a CMMS. I can say, here's make, model, serial number of my pump. Let me go over to this one. Apparently a tech here has said we need to replace this pipe. It's a demo account, right? Maybe we don't actually need to replace this part. Here's a control valve. You notice we have different tags and labels. So again, what I'm trying to show here is we can take the data that's in our CMMS, our asset inventory, and actually now layer it with a visual reference. And this whole thing is now transformed with a completely new dimension of information, right? I don't know about you guys, but my kids are not reading storybooks versus playing video games these days. Minecraft and all sorts of, watching TV. Yeah, they still read and they'll do that, but they'd much prefer to be playing video games, right? So why? Because it's a whole new dimension of information that they're able to get. It's interactive. It's all that kind of stuff. So why are we not looking at this technology for our buildings as well? Being able to jump around and do different things like this. Now this is cool, but this is just one space, right? I can say, okay, let me see this entire area. I have it all imaged. It's accurate. I can say, oh, well, how much space? I'm thinking about replacing this chiller here. I need to figure out how much space we have here. Let me just make sure. I'm going to draw a little measurement here and see what the distance is from this point to the other. We might need to bring in a new piece of equipment. So I'm not going to use this to necessarily build an as-built drawing off of it. But what I'm using this here is to have a conversation and to speed up the process for capital projects, new developments, and how we look at just our asset management across an entire portfolio. I could be having a call with my VP of Ops, discussing a new project. He's out in Portland, I'm in LA, and I've got another colleague in Atlanta, and we're all having a substantive conversation around what we're doing inside of this space. Now it gets even cooler, because what I can do is I can now roll up and aggregate information across an entire portfolio that's visual. So if I want to say, well, I've got all sorts of equipment across my entire portfolio. Let me take a look at another building here and see. I recently was looking at this Carrier centrifugal compressor. Where is that? Okay, it's going to drop me right into this space, right? So from a click of a button, going from my asset inventory to the visual layer, that's a whole new level of information that is now getting untapped, enabled by 3D scanning and digital twin technology. So additionally, we're talking about healthy buildings. Greg did a great job presenting some of these ideas. Talking like a green wall. Maybe I'm trying to put together my LEED strategy. How are we going to get all of our points for our platinum certification? Well, I can label something. Here's our green wall right here, and let's go ahead and take a look at that. I can take a picture, throw that into my report, and bam, I've just streamlined the entire process, right? So it's not just equipment, it's really anything that we're trying to collaborate on online. We need to pass information. We don't want this bottleneck. I don't have to call the property manager to go down and take a picture of the green wall. It's already here. We have it, right? And so I'm just trying to prep you guys and prompt you with a whole bunch of ideas of how this technology is being used and can be used in the future to completely transform how we think about operations from the get-go. Now, we talked about training and that institutional knowledge. Another way that this technology is being used is to create site-specific job training. And in this case study, we actually worked with the SL Green portfolio, one of the largest commercial landlord in Manhattan. And we are working on energy saving strategies for their steam operations across the entire building, across their entire portfolio of buildings. Now, we all know things are moving to heat pumps and electrification and all that kind of stuff, but this building still runs on steam. There's still all sorts of outdated pieces of equipment, and that tribal knowledge, that institutional knowledge gap, is not just going away. We can all will it away, but that doesn't mean that there's not a transitory period where we still need engineers to operate this fairly technical equipment. So what we did is we brought in the best experts in the field to come out and create site-specific training, and now this gets distributed to all the engineers in the portfolio in order to go through this training. So we can ask them questions. We're now navigating through the environment. We're showing them what valves affect what systems. We can throw videos in here.
Shut-off valves to the steam system. Most buildings, many buildings, have a kill valve so that if there's a problem on the steam system and you want to shut off the entire steam to the building, you're able to do that. Here at 11 Madison, we have a safety shut-off valve that is on the inlet, the high-pressure inlet to both PRVs here in the steam room. So there's a solenoid valve to the air. It's a pneumatically controlled globe valve, and there's a solenoid valve tied to the pressure switches that measure the pressure downstream of the PRV stations. So at any time, if there's trouble in the steam system downstream, we can go, if we can't come in the steam room, there's a breaker panel that we can kill the power to the solenoid. The solenoid valve stops the airflow. All of these valves on the PRV station and the kill valve are normally closed valves with air to open. So when you cut off the air supply, all the valves shut and nothing can pass the valves. Many other buildings don't have a kill valve on the PRV station. Many stations have a dedicated safety shutoff that only addresses the particular PRV station. Some buildings, when the steam comes in from the street, there is a dedicated kill valve for the entire steam system. And that also comes, it has access you break the glass and you pull the switch and it kills the valve. So different buildings have different emergency shutoff arrangements on their steam system.
Pretty cool, right? So now this gets assigned to the new engineer first day on the job, and before he even is allowed to operate, he's now gone through an entire crash course on steam operations at this building, completely shifting that onboarding time, reducing the cost to train, and absolutely reducing potential negligence that could happen due to a lack of training. So, I mean, you engineers, operators in the room, I think all you guys understand how important it is to stand up new teammates, new engineers, new techs to the building. It doesn't just happen overnight, but this is a way that imaging and the visual layer can add to that whole process in a way that's currently not being done. So that's really it for me. I think, really my goal here in this entire presentation, and if we want to go back to the other slide, we can, is to just introduce you to where the state of technology is at. We've done this on rooftops, we've done this on utility plants, we've done this on massive commercial buildings. We're doing this really across the entire commercial real estate field. And it's a really exciting time. So hopefully, this is a little bit of an eye-opener for people here as to what's possible and where this technology is headed. The good news is also that it's not even cost prohibitive. I mean, it costs us maybe $1,500 a day to send somebody out to a facility and image, if not the entire building, all of its critical infrastructure, right? So we're getting to a point where we're not talking about 30 grand on a high-end LiDAR scan that is, super expensive and takes all sorts of setup. We're doing this rapidly and we're doing this at scale. And so I'm really excited about where this technology is going. And I was hoping to just provide some general education and how that all, I think, ultimately, when we talk about wellness, it's about how we work, how we live, and how we engage with each other. And if there are ways that we can, say, prevent somebody from needing to get on a plane and come to a building for an inspection that could have been done over an online call, again, as Ralph says, it still takes a shovel to dig a hole. I'm not saying that this is going to circumvent everything, but there's, let's call it 25% of the process that is just really inefficient and can be done over a remote setting. That allows you guys to focus on what you do best and sit and put your energy towards the things that only you can solve. And so that's, I think, where we're at today, and that's my presentation. So thank you guys very much. Greg, you want to come up? I guess, I don't know how we're doing on time, but I'd love to just field some questions here.
So you said it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Correct.
To do a building or something like that. But how much the software itself costs?
How about you can reach out to me over there and we can talk about that. But it's comparable to CMMS systems today. That's what we're trying to do.
So you buy the system all at once, or you do the script?
Yeah, so there's almost always obviously there's a labor cost to going out and imaging the building. And then there's, just like any CMMS system, a cost to maintain the software license at the building. And so it's very similar to existing model, just with the addition of doing the imagery and the capture, and that's it. I should probably get this on one line. That's really lazy of me. I apologize. Go ahead.
I've been seeing more and more AR used in construction sites.
Yeah.
You can see the conduits coming up, plan for the space. Is there potential for using this in VR applications?
Absolutely. Actually, everything that I showed you guys today, you can put on a Quest 2, a headset, and access the spaces in virtual reality completely immersively. What we are not seeing, at least at the massive scale, where your average engineering team or technical team is using an augmented reality headset on a day-to-day basis. But what this does is it future-proofs the technology transition from our phone, our TV, our screens, to augmented reality. And as the technology gets closer to maturity, and it really is cost-effective to have goggles or glasses or whatever that is on a regular basis, then we're ready. Essentially, the transition is going to happen almost seamlessly. You essentially need to do all this work ahead of time in order to get to that augmented reality piece. So we are hoping that we can just sort of go and have a seamless transition to that. But that's a phenomenal question. Oh, right here?
Just curiosity, so you've got all this data scanned, stored, everything else. Is there any, or have you thought about, or are you doing any like live integration? Bringing like BMS data in and say, here's my boiler, what's it actually doing right now?
Absolutely, and we are piloting that right now. I can't show you any live data right now, but it's working, and we're using that to schedule predictive maintenance based on data, and then auto-assign the work order to the contractor, who picks up their phone and says, oh, I see exactly the valve that I need to go maintain, I see the problem, it's all in one flow. And that's basically taking everything in a CMMS, translating it to the visual, connecting it with IoT so that we're getting live BMS sensor data, using that to inform in a smart way, there's many systems out there that are monitoring that data, so I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel of that process, right? But these are great systems that can show you, based on data, oh, our chiller's about to go bad here in 2 months, I'm seeing vibration analysis or whatever that might be, and using that to schedule predictive maintenance. That's, I think we all agree, is the most efficient form, where we're only doing the things when they're needed, and not, there's a lack of redundancy there, so yeah. Yes?
So part of my job is to do safety inspections as well of all of our facilities. And that sometimes comes down to people leaving things out, wet spots around, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But it seems like there would be a challenge to be able to have an individual on site to take that picture to prove that they've done the work, but then feed into the system. Is there a back end so that local users at each one of the sites can then take a picture, upload it, and they can say, here's what it should be?
Absolutely. And, I can't show you the full demo, but essentially, everything that I've shown you is interactive. I can attach files, user manuals, O&M documents, anything to any piece of equipment. It then lives there in a historical setting, so I can see my entire inspection history, logs, safety reviews, OSHA compliance, anything that you want to see attached to the equipment. And then, in the case of an inspection, a safety audit, you can basically, you as the owner or the management team, you decide how your vendors need to cooperate with you, right? Hey, this is our software technology. When you go do this inspection, I need you to upload your report into this platform, right? Or at least send it to us through email, and we'll go and then add it to the platform. So absolutely, and we're actually doing, currently with SIG, we're doing kind of mock energy audits and sort of analysis based on this visual data, what can we just tell from the scan that could inform energy cost-saving strategies that we can do without even needing that site visit, and just making that whole process more efficient and cost-effective. Go ahead.
Another question. I mean, technology is amazing, but how, and I think there was a slide earlier about the aging workforce.
Yeah.
And people leaving the workforce, or they knew how to do it, this is their head, but then you are people, they really don't know.
Yeah.
They want to learn. How do you deal with that? How do you teach people to get into this new technology?
Well, again, I think, yeah, so I think if I'm paraphrasing your question, how can you get the new generation into using these technologies and successfully transfer that institutional knowledge from the older generation to the younger generation?
The new generation is already using the technology. It's just using it for this purpose now.
Yeah.
Oh, the lack of, okay, I got it.
Yeah, I mean, we are not running into that obstacle based on how easy it is to create. I think so. One of the things that we tried to tackle on early is, well, if it takes us 3 months to build a training course, then nobody's going to do it, right? And it just becomes another homework assignment for the chief engineer or the property manager, and then it sits on a shelf and great, cool idea, but execution falls flat, right? So our first challenge is how do we make that transition of knowledge as easy and seamless as possible? And I think to your point, going to that 21% millennials don't stay on after the first year, the labor gap shortage, we need to do a better job of appealing to the next generation of the workforce. They don't want to read manuals. They don't want to go through the old-fashioned way and get their education. They want to do this. They want to play a video game. They want to really be immersed in the space. I'm one of them. I know, right? And so we have to be creating content and have strategies that appeal to the next generation of workforce if we want to attract that talent. And so once it's there, that transition process can be very simple. It can take your training manual, now digitize it into this form factor. And it is not a complicated process. I'd love to, I could talk to you about this for days, about how it actually works. We're doing this in, call it less than 2 week turnaround, less than 1 week turnaround, depending on how much information we need to set up. So it is not difficult, and we're seeing it happen at a large scale right now.
I was just going to add on that. So do you have account managers or someone you work with when they would come in, and then they would take your list of assets and everything else, and then they start to digitize it in?
You got it.
What's that process like?
You basically described it. So hey, let's show up to a building, let's have a conversation with your team. Usually at the portfolio level is best if we can have a strategy that gets deployed, that gets mandated by the VP of Ops rather than just one guy, especially for a whole portfolio. But it's essentially that. It's what equipment do we need to digitize? What are the existing documents that we need to upload? Everything is off of SharePoint, Google Drive, Excel sheets, right? You name it. So we need to get a lay of the land. What does this all look like today? And then we go through that migration period. We say, okay, what training is most important for you today? And what can we start with year one? Can't boil the ocean. So let's just start in a sequence of events here that makes the most sense, most tactically for your operations. Where are you currently hurting the most? Let's start there. Let's make that process more efficient, and then we'll move on to the more nuanced things across the portfolio. But that is essentially the process, yes. Getting your equipment schedule tagged up, going through the training, and then having a strategy for how that gets deployed. It's all just a little bit of data sharing. We usually have sort of a do-it-yourself where we train the team how to operate and use it and set things up and do logs and do the reporting, create PMs, all that kind of stuff, or sort of a done-for-you where we mostly drive that process as a service. So both options are available when we go out and deploy this. It's a great question, though. Anybody else? Go ahead.
The historical data like work orders and,
Yeah.
and different items on the equipment, if it's uploaded into the system and don't need to be critical or anything like that, but if we were to need to get it out or transition or another portfolio or system, excuse me, would we be able to get that out of the system?
Of course. It's your data.
Okay.
I'm not here to sell your data like many other people. We would essentially give you a raw export of every single file that's been uploaded. It would come into a dump, essentially a series of folders where it's like, okay, here's everything, all inspection logs, all equipment information, everything that's been uploaded. Now, obviously, you lose the power of the visual and the software that kind of connects it all together, but all that.
Like that would be an issue, but I just wondered, sometimes you get these software.
No,
like it's lost forever. So.
Absolutely. No, we make sure everything gets stored, partitioned. So in the case of a unhappy breakup, then there's a way to easily get that data out of the system so that you're not losing work. And also the training as well. So a lot of those training, we've built it in a way that's SCORM compliant, for those of you that know what that means. It means that if you have some other way that you're managing users across an entire organization, Oracle, SAP, or whatever that might be, there's an easy migration. So I can say, oh, my engineer passed the safety course over here at this building. It's now rolling up to my super system, my HR management software, whatever that might be, so that there's no loss of information. Because we don't want this to be just another app, right? I mean, I think we've all kind of are jaded by too many tools and disparate systems and things like that. So we're trying to help things come together in a more seamless way. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time. It's been a great audience.